Hey, it's Alan Berg. Before we get into this episode, I'm starting something called Ask Me Anything. That's right. You submit your questions and they could become an entire episode or something that I answer at the end of an episode. To submit your questions, look for the red button at podcast.alanberg.com. That's right, podcast.alanberg.com. Click on the red button, submit your question, and maybe you'll hear it here on the podcast. Thanks. Are you limiting yourself with goals? Listen to this episode. See what I'm talking about. Welcome to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Berg. I'm a speaker, author, sales trainer, website reviewer, and I help businesses like yours sell more, profit more, and have more fun doing it. Enjoy this episode. Hi, it's Alan Berg. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. This goes back to something from my uncle, who actually passed last year at 93 years old and was a life coach until the day he died. And he'd also written some books and things. And it was funny because I never tried to follow him and I ended up a lot like him there. So one day, many years ago, we were talking and I mentioned to him something about goals. I was talking to a client about goals. He said, don't use that word. It's like, don't use the word goals. Why would I not want to use the word goals? He said, because goals by their nature are self-limiting. You're setting a cap, you're setting something to target, but you might be capable of more than that. And that goal is limiting you there. So, it sets this artificial target that we shoot for. Now, when I was publishing wedding magazines and I was regional sales director and I was VP of sales at the Knot, and I had some sales reps that would work towards their target number. So I'd give them a number and they'd work towards that target number and maybe get within 5% plus or minus of that number. Then I had other people, my top reps, who would just sell as much as they could possibly sell. That's what they would do. They would sell as much as they could sell, and wherever the chips fell, that's where they were. And in their case, they were usually above their targets because they were not limiting themselves by that number and saying, I'm going to try to hit that number. They were saying, I'm just going to sell as much as I can possibly sell, and whatever the number is, it is. And that's actually the way that I acted as a salesperson. I kind of had the I need to know number, right? I need to hit this number. That's what pays the bills and things. And then it was, but don't stop there. It's just, know once you've hit that, the bills are paid, but let's keep going. And now what I do in my business is I actually leave space in my calendar because I have overfilled it in the past. That would be like your 2022 when your calendar was overfilled and you have to do all those events that backed up. That was 2019 for me. I actually ended up being away 178 nights that year. Now, my P&L, profit and loss statement, looked amazing. It was the highest gross and net that I've ever had. I actually don't anticipate ever hitting that number again because to hit it, I had to be away 178 nights. And that was the price I paid for that. And then, of course, with COVID, I was away 16 months after that. So I went from being away half the year to being home for 16 months, realized I don't like either of those things. So when I'm looking at my P&L, profit and loss, do I compare it to last year? Yes, obviously I do. But I'm okay if it's in the ballpark because I'm okay with that number. And it's not that I'm slacking off. I'm leaving room that, and it's already happened a few times this year, where somebody's come to me and say, hey, I need you to come soon. And had I already filled my calendar, I wouldn't be able to help that customer. So I'm leaving that room and letting it come. And that was another thing my uncle taught me. If you're doing the things you're supposed to do to get the word out. Now, for me, that's this podcast, that's my books, that's my speaking, that's my consulting, that's my social media, that's the emails that I send out. If I'm doing those things, then let it come to me instead of having a negative energy where, oh my gosh, I need to fill this in, right? There's a desperation energy in there, which actually works against you. He was very much in tune to the energy of the world and how we're all connected. And it's kind of like The Secret, if you read The Secret or watched the video, The Secret. And he said, I didn't make this stuff up, the laws of attraction and things, they've been around for millennia. It's just his way of talking about it. So you don't want to have that negative energy. I need the business, because people feel that, whether you think you're projecting that or not, they do. And then people actually don't want to do business with you because they want to do business with people who want the business, But if you need the business, there's a negative undertone to that energy. So your goals, if you're going to set them, I would suggest know the number you have to hit because that's what pays the bills. And then have a number that you want to hit, and then have a pie in the sky number and say, hey, maybe I could get to there. Stretch yourself with that. And would that mean raising your rates? Would it mean doing more events, or maybe doing the same number with a higher average profit, right? Would it be upselling more, or taking on more people, or taking on more products and services? What can you do to get to that number that doesn't necessarily mean doing more events, right? You can be more profitable on the events you do and hit a higher gross and net number. That's another way to get there. But have that pie in the sky. When I was VP of sales at the Knot, the first year, my first full year, they had given me the number we had to hit and then a pie in the sky, which meant a different kind of a bonus for me. And my predecessor had never hit their pie in the sky number, and it was up there. My first full year as VP of sales, we hit that number. Me and my team hit that number. And yes, they had to write me a big check, right? Now, they didn't expect us to hit it, and we did. So that was a pie in the sky. We were able to get there. Now, of course, the number got raised for the next year because that's what happens, right? Especially when you're at a big company. But you have to say to yourself, am I okay where I am? Do I want to go up in gross and net? What is my goal? Am I trying to do more events? Is that the goal, or is it the better goal to be more profitable on my events? I work with people all the time in one-on-one consulting for that kind of thing, trying to decide what's right for you. Because sometimes more isn't better. That's what I found out in 2019. More was not better. It looked great on the calendar until you had to live it. So don't limit yourself with goals by having them too low, right? Stretch yourself, but have the number you know you need to hit. This is the number I need to hit. But it would be nice if I hit that number. What do I need to do to get there? And then challenge yourself on that so that the goal actually becomes something that motivates and challenges you instead of limits you. Hope they gave you something to think about. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wedding Business Solutions podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe to this channel and post a review on your chosen platform, Apple Podcasts or whichever one. If you have any questions about anything in this episode or any of my episodes, email me directly at alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com or visit my website, alanberg.com, alanberg.com. If you have any suggestions for future topics or guests that you'd like to see, please again, email me or visit my website. Thanks for listening.